Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. It's always a joy to remind you that whatever you're looking for in life is already within you. That presence within you as you become more aware of your Holy Trinity Self, of your soul, your spirit, and the source energy itself. That's the prize right there within you. May you recognize it today and allow it to come forward in your humanity. I also want to call your attention to a wonderful program we'll be having this evening. We'll be having the presentation by John Shartle of the Soul Foundation Conference, wonderful conference that we attended a few weeks ago. I thoroughly encourage you to join us this evening. Just go to our website, nowcreations.org, click on Study Groups, and scroll down to Topical Conversations, and then come into the Zoom classroom. I also encourage you to have a copy of the presentation that John will make. It'll be very helpful for you. Again, tonight from 7 to 8:30, happy to have you join us if you're able to do so. Let's begin. Actually, I probably should tell you, I feel a little more chipper than I normally do. For whatever reason, there's just that extra spark this morning, and hopefully it'll spark through in my presentation. My dear friends, it's a joy for me now to move on to the third aspect of living meaningfully as a soul spirit in a physical body. You will recall that the first fact to be clarified about our identity was to understand that we are indeed a spiritual being, that our true, continuous conscious self is our Trinity self, the indissoluble unity of our soul, the Holy Spirit, and the God Spirit. And as we added in last week's teaching, how we as spiritual beings live in this physical body. We as spiritual beings have this human earth experience, which would like to say that we are earthlings. We are spiritual earthlings. So let me at this point say how much I have appreciated the comments that so many of you made on last week's teaching on the purpose and function of our body in the larger picture of being a spiritual being. Again, I encourage you to know the structure of your spiritual humanity. Know the structure of how you're constituted. And once this structure is clearly known, it is so much easier to navigate in the world. It is precisely this navigation in the world that is the basis of today's teaching. We are now ready to blend spirit, soul, and body in an intelligent, happy being living in our everyday world. Let's do that. I will begin this teaching with two general principles with several points under each, and then conclude with a longer than usual remark. Today's teaching is entitled Body, Soul, and Spirit, the Unified Human. Body, Soul, and Spirit, the Unified Human. Let's begin with the first unifying principle. We must begin with this principle, namely the acceptance of the dimensional experience of our space-time material world, because, well, that's where we're living. We're living in this space-time material world in a physical body. Obviously, then, the first principle will focus much more on the body, our physical persona. Well, here we are in a body. How about that? Here we are in a body, in space-time. Although we know that our body is not our true identity, it is certainly how we navigate in the physical world. Thus, the first thing to recognize about our physical experience is that it is a temporary experience. We are here on a sojourn on earth. There was a time we were not here. Here we are. And there'll be a time when we will leave our physical body and the dimensional experience of space-time. When I wrote my first book, The 10 Most Important Things to Know in Life, the absolutely first most important thing I feel we need to know in life is that someday, well, we will not be here. As I like to say, the earth is not a retirement center. I say this more than just as a glib phrase for two reasons. The first one is that most people, even though they know better, most people still live as if the earth will be their retirement center. They save up money and possessions so that when they retire from their jobs, they will have ample assets in their futures, living as if the earth will be, well, a future retirement center. I don't say this critically because you cannot be naive about human life, but one has to sometimes, in a sense, admit the fact that there's a certain naivete. There's a certain naivete in thinking that we will be on the earth forever. This naivete surfaces in the second reason why Earth seems to be a retirement center for many people. As someone who has dealt with death on numerous occasions, I've often sensed that many people still kind of look upon death as a failure. Of course, they will not say this, but it is clear that there seems to be an undercurrent of this. People will say something like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about the passing," and they are so sorry for the family members. But then they continue to live as though their physical lives will not end for them. It's like physical passing is not meant for them. Thus, it's very important to understand that life in the body is an interim experience. Our world truly is one of shadows that appear as absolutely real. Now, having said that the earth is a temporary experience, and again, I'm just speaking from the physical experience, let me now address the second point. Again, from the physical experience. Truly, being in the body, being in our bodies, it's really a wondrous experience. It's easy to see why souls want to come here and be in a human experience. Of course, at the beginning of human life, everything is great, wonderful pleasures. Obviously, the physical pleasures from good food to sexual intimacy, but also from all of the additional pleasures from the beauty of nature, as well as to the panorama of beautiful things in life in general. We just enjoy so many things, not the least of which is your own creativity, the things you do with the things that are a part of the material world. Also, then, there are the additional experiences of the mind and the emotions that physical living generates. Experiences that are not only our own achievements, but also the achievements of our children, of our fellow human beings. And although there are downside risks to the human experience from physical health, to the not so pleasant thoughts and emotions of different situations, the experience certainly seems to be worth the risk, regardless of the cost at times. Speaking of the cost, a third point, simply from the physical perspective, is important. This point is rather sneaky. It just seems to sneak up on you until it's almost there and it's too late to do anything about it. This sneaky deception is that it's very easy to get lost in stuff. Just easy to get lost in stuff. To get lost in lower energies, such as the ego, and of course, excessive materialism. This notion of getting easily lost is quite apparent in the number of self-help books that are in our bookstores. Everything from addiction rehabilitation and vulnerability to everything else you can possibly think of. We just get lost in so many things. Yet, all in all, everything considered, the physical body's earth experience seems to be a good in itself, that it's worth the risks. It's just worth the risk of being here, even when the death bell tolls for you. It's quite an experience. Indeed, it is, to be in a body. Well, we're now ready to add the spiritual dimension to the human experience. Thus, the second organizing principle is, what are you? What are you who now realize that you're in a spiritual body and that you are in a physical body having this spiritual experience? What are you doing here as the spiritual being in this body? Okay, let's presume a few things, and then I'm going to focus on more particular things that you might be doing here in a physical body as a conscious spiritual being. Let's presume, and I think it's a good presumption, that you know that you are a creative extension of the God Spirit. Let's just presume that's true. Let's presume that you know that you are the experiencer, of God's experiences. And let's presume that you have exercised your freedom in creating the game of separation, and that now you as a soul have realigned with the God Spirit. So with those presumptions, let's now address what you, as an informed spiritual being, are doing here in the world. What are you doing here as a conscious spiritual being? Let me suggest the following organizing principle and then address several aspects of it. First, the organizing principle. I think this is pretty important. I encourage you to jot it down. Your purpose now as a spiritual being in the human earth plane is to create from oneness and love, and to firmly situate these two spiritual principles into the earth. I'll say it again. Our purpose, being here now on the earth plane, is to create from oneness and love, and to situate these two qualities into the material world. One more time. Our purpose, I believe, as a spiritual being in this physical body, here on the earth plane, is to live from the qualities of oneness and love, and to establish these two qualities here on the earth plane. I believe that's the truth. With this principle in mind, let me now suggest to you several things that we now are here to do as spiritual beings, upgrading simply the physical human experience. And may I suggest the following 6 things. The first one is the most obvious, and that is to maintain that presence of oneness and love within ourselves, with one important addition. So the first thing is to maintain that sense of oneness and love within our own selves. It's very inspirational, I think, to the members of Now Creations and to me personally, to see how many of you are really living these principles of oneness and love. That oneness and love is really the active presence in your personal life. From the time you awake in the morning and throughout the day, you not only are maintaining your spiritual awareness, but you're able to bring it into the activity, the daily situations of your life. You have settled into a daily spiritual practice, and many of you are now attending several weekday classes, again, bringing inspiration to others who attend regularly as well. But as I mentioned, there is an addition to your daily practice. Here's the addition. This addition is such an important idea to master, and you're doing it. You are now mastering the notion of your personal freedom. You realize that you are a free being who is creating your reality. And the reality that you are choosing to create, the reality that you are freely choosing to create, is to become a spiritual being ushering in the kingdom of God by living of the qualities of oneness and love. You have released the old stumbling blocks of egoism and materialism, and you've made the conscious choice. You've made a free choice to become a mature spiritual soul. Wow. And as more than one of you have said on more than one occasion, you are the happiest now that you've ever been. Understandably so. Who would not be the happiest when you've come to live by oneness and love as a mature spiritual soul right here in a physical body? The second point. Again, it sounds so simple, but what an accomplishment you are achieving. In the simplest terms, you are bringing a loving presence into the activities of your daily living. Listen closely. No longer do you allow external circumstances to control you. You also are not allowing previous people who used to intimidate you to do so. In circumstances and with such people, you are much more bringing oneness and love into those situations. There was a time when situations seemed to control you. There was a time when people seemed to intimidate you. No more. No more. Now, you simply know who you are, and you are happy to bring your light into your activities. Perhaps for the first time, you feel free to be your true self and to announce your goodness into the activities of your life. Which brings us to the third point. Just as you have been inspired by others, you also, come on now, are becoming an inspiration to others. And it's time to realize the important role that you are playing in the lives of others. In her wonderful book, Emergence, Barbara Marx Hubbard said on so many occasions that the most important thing you can possibly do is to bring the love of God, that energy, into the lives of your family and friends. It's the most important thing you can do. You can bring that energy into the lives of your family and friends. I think we are now doing this. Oh, yes, there was a time when we were reluctant to step forward. We were reluctant to speak freely of what we really felt, but not anymore. And of course, you don't do it in a preachy manner. You don't do it in a, well, I'm a better than you manner. You do it by recognizing these two principles. First, you clearly recognize that you are always meant to be wherever you are. And wherever you are, you're meant to be there as the light. Once we get that straight, we're always meant to be where we are. And we're always meant to be there as the light. It's so much easier to live accordingly. People appreciate your presence. They love to have you around. You are guiding others to a spiritual understanding of life. Please do not doubt this. The fourth point. You are enjoying your earth experience more than you ever have because you know who you are. So please listen carefully. The pressure is on. The pressure is off. The pressure is off of you having to be a limited personality self, trying to be something it could never be, to be the be-all and end-all of life, trying to be that perfect, limited self. Pressure's off. Now that you know your true identity as the Holy Trinity self, as your soul, spirit, and source energy, you can relax into your present human personality self without the pressure of its limitations. This reduction of pressure shows up in many ways. Because you know who you are so much more comfortable in your personality self. Your Holy Trinity self is now bringing you to a beautiful living and a beautiful satisfaction of being the central energy within you that is coming forth. You're beginning to understand the beauty of this world, as well as loving and respecting all others who are in the world as well, some a little more easily doing their work, some having a little more difficulty. And you can happily enjoy. You can happily enjoy your own creativity and the creativity of others as well. We are just moving into such a much greater, more beautiful view of life. And may I just suggest to you, with so many more good things to come. And truly, that fear of death is now being dissolved. You now realize that because you are a spiritual being, you don't have to fear death. As you focus on your identity and your meditation, and as one of our members, I just thought this was just wonderful. One of our members said this to her siblings when one of the siblings passed. She said, "We are eternal beings. We are eternal soul spirits. Let us not mourn the passing of our sibling." It's pretty strong. Wonderful words. The fifth point. The fifth point is to look at your future. Such an important point for us to grasp. It is obvious to us on the spiritual path that there is an evolutionary stream at play in humanity. This evolutionary stream is a movement to a higher consciousness of life. Surely you're noticing this in your life, this higher stream of moving yourself into a higher consciousness. We must come to see that the world is not simply an end in itself, but that we are evolving through the material world into a higher consciousness. There's a stream of evolution going on here. It's important for us to engage in the world, or as Rudolf Steiner said so nicely, to engage in the Godhead of the world, to engage in the Godhead of the world from spirit. Each of us has our part to play in this evolution. And again, not just of ourselves, but of the world itself. I encourage you not to withdraw from the world, but to engage in it from spirit. We need you. Be confident that even though you might not know the final outcome, what you do know is the process. You know the process of showing up as a light in the world, exactly where you're meant to be. That's the process. Now, you might recall that I said I would present a more extensive conclusion. I will do so by making the conclusion the sixth final point of today's teaching, the unified human. Might I suggest that the sixth point is this: that each one of us takes an oath to be in responsible service to humanity. We'll say it again. That each one of us takes an oath to be in responsible service to humanity. That we will take an oath to be in responsible service to humanity. This is what it means. Humanity is the obvious means whereby spirit is presently engaging in the material world. May we truly bring our conscious spirit to the planet, to the material world. May we be the channels of that evolving spirit through matter for the greater good of our souls, and obviously for the material world itself. This is a very big picture of the world, but we are quite capable of not just having the picture, but living it as well. And of course, we're going to do this together. Well, I think I have to remind you, the bus is on the road. With these thoughts in mind, let me now bring you into meditation, and what a joy it is to do so. You just have to sit down quietly and just realize that, well, there's two parts to you. You certainly have that human, physical, mental, emotional aspect to yourselves. And at times we are all too human. We make comforting excuses to ourselves, such as, well, I'm only human. Nobody's perfect. Which apply to the human condition, but not your spiritual condition. You have always been perfect in your Holy Trinity. You've always been perfect in your soul, in your spirit, and in your God Son, in whose image you have been created. It's just a matter of learning how to blend these two aspects of ourselves into a unified human, a unified human of body, soul, and spirit. Just don't get lost. Don't get lost. Rather, bring that spiritual awareness in which you now are to the fore, so that it might embrace your humanity and enjoy every bit of this experience. Enjoy every bit of this experience. But learn to live it from oneness and love. From oneness and love. Now, as soon as I said living it from oneness and love, is it not true that those words elicited a very truthful feeling within your soul? They're just the truth. Want to live from oneness and love. These are your soul's truths. Would you just take a moment and feel the energy coursing in your soul, not in your head, in your soul, when you say oneness and love? And would you understand that energy in you right now that you're experiencing just right at this moment, you just know that's the truth. It's being experienced within all the rest of us here this morning, and by numerous souls throughout the world. Pressure is off. The pressure is off you having to be this incredible, limited human personality. Disappointing not only others at times, but probably disappointing yourself even more so. Pressure's off. It's a matter of stepping up, coming to joy in your spiritual awareness, uniting with others, being one in spirit. These are the things that help us, support and encourage us. And in this process, joining with others, how we then become such blessings for so many. We are doing this. We are doing this. Step it up. It's always been interesting to me that when Barbara Marsh Hubbard wrote that wonderful book, Emergence, she would always say, the best thing we can do is to bring that God's Spirit into manifestation, into expression. And it's just interesting. Seems like at times we do everything except that. We talk about the weather, politics, religion, sports, family, whatever else. And that one thing that just is the most important thing, just don't seem to get around to it. And that's why often, even in families, we really don't know where people stand about what's really real. That used to be you. Not anymore. You always know you're meant to be where you are, and you're meant to be there simply as the light. Okay, we got to help each other with this. We're going to help each other. But we're quite capable. We're quite capable. And we'll continue to do so. Okay, we had a pretty strong teaching this morning. Hopefully that has filtered into our souls. And now you begin to feel that, oh, yes, this is exactly what I want to be. I just want to be that unified human, body, soul, spirit. So let's begin right now, just with a nice smile within our hearts, just knowing that feeling, moving back into the breath, just kind of a joyful breath. And as we open our eyes with hopefully a nice smile on our face, just to embrace this wonderful aspect of being a unified human being. I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. And we are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. Namaste.